honestly surprised it took me this long to watch The Island of Dr. Moreau. It has everything I like. A mad scientist thinking that he's doing the right thing, a likable enough hero, and of course, there's plenty of creatures. What's the Doctor up to on the mysterious island? Let's find out. Three guys are on a tiny boat in the middle of the ocean. Oh, make that two guys are in a tiny boat in the middle of the ocean. We later learn that this is all that's left of some sailors who got caught in a bad storm, which sank their ship in minutes. They boarded the lifeboat, and after 17 days at sea, they finally drift to an island. The island of Dr. Moreau. Exhausted and starving, the two men make it on shore, and Braddock here goes to get some water. While he's out, his buddy gets taken by someone and pulled away, while Braddock falls into a trap. When he wakes up, he's in a bed, greeted by Montgomery.
Good morning.
Who helps out on the island, which just so happens to be 1,000 miles from nowhere. We learn that Braddock's friend didn't make it. He died from exposure, they say. And that's when Moreau introduces himself. He explains the situation and how they're going to help Braddock. There hasn't been a supply ship for a while, so that's a good thing. One is due soon. He can catch a ride on that and make it home. In the meantime, he can stay here. That's pretty generous, but as we'll soon see, he might be better off floating in the ocean. Later on, Braddock's introduced to Maria, who lives on the island with him. Moreau says he rescued her from a life of slavery and brought her here at the age of 11.
She's certainly very beautiful.
Yes, extraordinary.
There's only one last warning from the good doctor. Don't leave the compound at night. It's too dangerous in the jungle.
There's been a great deal of talk about flying machines.
At dinner, Braddock fills everyone in on what's going on in the outside world. How they're trying to make men fly, and they have submarines that can go underwater for hours at a time. But the doctor isn't interested in man-made technology. He's more curious on what advancements they've made to man. Humans are still the same as we were for hundreds of years. Only our machines and technology has changed. Braddock asks about all the help on the island. They're nice enough, but all kinda ugly. Maria explains that there wasn't anyone on the island before Moreau. He brought everyone here.
Nobody was here before Dr. Moreau.
Braddock goes to the library to read a little bit more about what Moreau's up to. And that's when the doctor catches him. He's not upset, but actually happy to see that Braddock's so curious about what's going on here. He explains that all his life he was criticized by his colleagues, and now he's become an outcast. But he chooses to study eugenics, specifically why humans and animals grow the way they do. We all start out looking practically identical, but our DNA tells us how to grow into a human or a dog, etc. What if we could change that dog into a human? Is that something we should even do?
Can we change that destiny?
Should we?
In the morning, we see Montgomery and Moreau bringing the servant Maling back to the compound. Moreau says that he needs help, but he's just too exhausted from running around all night to explain, so he'll have to wait. While he sleeps, Braddock tests out his boat, which has a gaping hole in the side of it, so he's not going to get too far. Out in the jungle, he gets chased by something. We don't really get a good look at him. Back at the compound, Braddock has a look around, and in one of the huts is a bunch of cages with animals locked up. Given his previous conversation with Moreau, Braddock probably should have an idea of what's going on here, but just in case, he's given a full demonstration. He finds a man-bear, and he's in pain. Moreau explains that he's currently in the second stage of the evolution and needs a treatment, a set of instructions on how to grow. In this case, the instructions are telling the bear's DNA to have human characteristics.
Some
But
surgery?
why?
Implants into
Well,
various
Moreau
organs.
says it's to help avoid deformities, to cure disease. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. It would seem that Moreau's heart is in the right place, but he can't quite get the formula down. You see, after a period of time with no treatment, the animals turn back into animals and lose their humanity, reverting back to savage beasts. It doesn't take long, now that Braddock knows the island's secrets, that he notices that, yeah, all the servants are humanals. That is, human animals. It took him long enough, geez. We see the bear that was injected last night is looking more human, and when Moreau introduces him to a real bear, which I assume is the bear man's mate, he lashes out at him because he still hasn't given up on the bear side of his mind yet. In his head, the bear is still his mate, which pisses Moreau off big time. Upset over what he's just seen, Braddock runs out of the compound and through the jungle, where he eventually finds a cave full of humanals. All Dr. Moreau's creations. Boar Man, Lion Man, Hyena Man, they all surround him when their leader stops them and reminds them of the law. They must not walk on all fours, they must not eat flesh, and must not shed blood.
That is the law.
However, those are human rules, not animal rules, and one guy can't resist. He attacks Braddock until Moreau stops it. He reminds them all of the law, and if you disobey, you're thrown into the house of pain.
He who breaks the law shall be punished. Back to the house of pain. Back to the house of pain.
Sounds like a Tyler Perry show. Oh, wait, every Tyler Perry show is a house of pain. Maybe that's all Moreau does. He makes the humanals watch Tyler Perry movies. Well, in reality, the real house of pain seems to be much worse. If you disobey the human laws, Moreau sees that as you're turning back into an animal. So it's time for another treatment, which is incredibly painful. This is necessary, Moreau explains, because that if they even spill one drop of blood, the animal side of their brain will take over, and that's that.
I want no part of this.
Oxman doesn't care. Animals are strong and proud. He runs outside to throw a temper tantrum and eventually fights a tiger. The tiger actually bit down on the actor's head here, but luckily he was wearing a helmet. Otherwise, he'd probably be dead. Well, everyone hears the fight going on, and Moreau goes to put a stop to it. Oxman runs off into the woods, with everyone chasing after him. Braddock's the first to catch up, and the ox begs him to kill him. No more House of Pain, just kill him. So he does, much to the disappointment of Moreau and the humanals. The next day, Braddock and Maria pack to make their big escape. Oh, yeah, they're a couple now if you didn't guess. Earlier on, Maria and Braddock banged one out. So anyway, they're going to run off now. But Moreau stops them and injects Braddock with his serum. What would turn an animal into a human will turn a human into an animal. Braddock slowly starts to transform, losing not only his appearance, but his mind as well. Montgomery walks in to see Braddock turning, and it's all just a bit too much for him at this point. While he has his back turned, Moreau kills him. Moreau puts Montgomery's body in the cages with the other animals. At night, Maling sneaks in to take his body out and give it to the humanals, and they start to devour him. Moreau continues to experiment with Braddock, trying to get him to be more animalistic. He gets close, but in the end, Braddock's still human.
You Braddock. Damn you!
Outside, Moreau hears all the commotion and sees that Montgomery's missing. He instantly knows what happened and goes to put everyone in their place. While he's out, Maria frees Braddock and sees what he's becoming. Moreau confronts the humanals, wanting Montgomery's body back, but they turn on him. The law is you must not shed blood, and Moreau did just that. He must be punished. He must go to the House of Pain. They fight him for a while, and I gotta admit, for an older dude, Moreau can hold his own. But eventually the Humanals win out and rip him to shreds. Braddock stops them, and they all see that he's turning himself. So now, he's their new leader, so they run away scared. Moreau's still alive, but barely. Braddock could finish him off, and an animal would, but he's better than that, and he stops himself, letting Moreau die from his own wounds. Eventually, all the other Humanals storm the castle, and once inside, they tear the place apart, lighting it on fire and letting all the animals out of their cages, just so they can fight each other. I'm sure there's some deep meaning behind all this, because they're all animals deep down, and you can't suppress the animal instinct. But really, I think it just makes for a good climax of the film. Those stunt workers have some balls working with real animals like this. While all that's going on, Braddock and Maria make their escape. But one Humanal followed them, and he doesn't want our heroes to make it off the island. They fight back and forth, and just when you think it's over, he pops back up again. But finally, Braddock shoves a broken oar into his face, and that's all she wrote. After taking a quick little nap, Braddock wakes up to the sound of a ship. His nightmare's finally over, and he can go home with his new girlfriend that's totally not an animal. This isn't the first time H.G. Wells' novel was adapted to film. That honor would go to The Island of Lost Souls. Now, I've seen that one a few times, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't grab me like the 1977 remake. I'll have to go back and give Lost Souls a fair chance, but for right now, I prefer this version. Michael York does a really good job, and I like how we discover the island's secrets along with him. The standout character for me, however, is Burt Lancaster as Dr. Moreau. He does such a great job, and there's times that I gotta admit, I kind of agreed with him. Now, I know animal testing is wrong, but it happens every day. And if he was successful and actually able to cure diseases and change the way the body grows like he wanted, it would all be worth it. However, whipping Humanals and taking them away to a place called the House of Pain clearly makes him a bad guy. There's always something to see in the background. It's always vibrant and there's animals walking around. The scenery's really nice to look at. But I do wish Moreau attempted to turn other animals, like birds or frogs or something like that. That'd look pretty cool. But the ones he did turn, you could clearly tell what they were when they were in animal form. Oxman had horns, Lionman had a mane, and so on. I like that. The Island of Dr. Moreau is a fun watch that kind of falls apart at the very end, but it's still worth it. I give it 3 Oxmans out of 4.